Here's a question so small it sounds like nothing, the sort you'd wave off at a dinner table, and I've come to believe it's the loose thread the whole world hangs from. A wave is always a wave in something. Sound is a wave in the air. Ripples are waves in the water of a pond. Shake a rope and the wave runs along the rope. Every wave you have ever met in your life is a wave in some stuff. And the stuff is what does the waving. So here's the silly little question. Light is a wave, you told me that yourself weeks back, and I've not doubted it once since. Light is a wave in what?
In what? Yes, that's the question. And it's the one that ends up eating all the others. Let me tell you why it isn't the dinner table nothing it pretends to be. For the better part of half a century, some of the sharpest people who have ever lived asked exactly that. Light waves in what? And they didn't shrug and move on. They went hunting.
Hunting for a thing nobody could see. That sounds like a short and rather sad little hunt.
You'd think so, but they weren't chasing a glimpse of the thing. They knew they'd never get one. They were chasing its fingerprints. They set out to catch the invisible something light does its waving in, and they built the finest trap that had ever been devised to catch anything at all. Patient, clever, gorgeous work, years of it, and they came back with nothing.
Nothing. You build the perfect trap. You go hunting for the one thing your whole picture needs to be there, and you come home empty-handed. And you're telling me that in the tone of a man delivering good news.
The best news physics ever got, though it certainly didn't feel like it at the time. At the time, it felt like the floor going out from under everyone at once. Because that nothing was not a failure of the trap. The trap worked. The people weren't careless. The something they were hunting simply wasn't there to be caught. And there's no more unsettling result in all of science than a perfect question answered with a flat, ringing silence. Once you take that silence seriously, once you believe the empty result instead of blaming the net, it doesn't dent the picture. It breaks it. It breaks a rule so old and so obvious that nobody had ever thought to write it down, let alone to doubt it. And a rule that old doesn't crack quietly. When it finally gives, it takes a whole world down with it.
All right, you've got me. I came in thinking tonight was a nice, quiet evening about light, and you've turned it into a heist that goes wrong on purpose. So what's the rule? The one so obvious nobody wrote it down.
The oldest rule about motion there is. And to feel it crack, you first have to feel how solid it is. So I'm not going to tell it to you. I'm going to make you say it yourself. Ready? I'll hand you a speed. Something's going along at a fair old clip. And you're going to answer me one word.
One word. Go on then.
A ball is rolling. Rolling fast. How fast?
Fast compared to what? That's the word. What? You can't just hand me fast and expect me to salute it.
Why not? Fast is fast, surely.
Because fast on its own is half a sentence, and half a sentence isn't anything. Fast next to the ground, then tell me about the ground. Fast next to the man jogging alongside it, different number entirely.
Give me the picture. Make me feel the size of it.
Picture a ball rolling down the aisle of a train, tearing through a station, dead slow to the fellow sipping his tea in the carriage, and quick as a whip to the woman on the platform, watching the whole train blur past. Same ball, two witnesses, two speeds, and not a liar between them. There isn't one true speed sitting on it like a luggage tag. You always have to finish the sentence. Fast compared to what?
And you say it like it's the most obvious thing in the world.
Because it is. It's not philosophy. It's not some clever trick you spring on a first year. It's just what the word means. A speed is a comparison, or it's noise. You measure it against something, and if you won't name the something, you haven't said a thing. My grandmother knew that. Every child who ever squabbled about who was really moving on two boats drifting past each other knew that in their bones.
Then you're in the very best company, because that is the rule the whole of physics was built on for 200 years. Galileo saw it first and saw it cleanest. Shut yourself in the cabin of a ship gliding smoothly over a flat, calm sea. No window, no peeking out, and I'll set you any test you like to work out whether you're moving.
And I'd win it. I'd toss a coin, or watch how the water pours, or feel for the lean of the thing.
You'd lose it every time. There's no test you can run, none, that will tell you whether the ship is racing along or tied fast to the dock. The flies buzz about the cabin the same. The coin drops dead straight into your palm the same. Water pours the same. Steady motion hides itself perfectly. It leaves nothing behind, not a track, not a ripple, not a shiver for you to catch it by.
So from the inside, you simply can't catch yourself moving. There's no experiment that outs you. That's the part I take for granted so hard I could sleep through it.
And Newton built his whole world on top of that sleeping certainty. Speeds are relative. You've just proved it with your train. And speeds add up, plainly, like coins slid across a table. There is no such thing, anywhere in Newton's world, as a speed that simply is, all on its own, with nothing to be measured against. Every speed in creation is a speed with respect to something else, and you're free to pick the something.
The adding up part is the bit I find so homely I could fall asleep in it too. I'm on a train doing a good speed. I get up and stroll toward the front. Anyone on the platform just adds the two together, the train's pace plus my little stroll. My stroll borrows the train's speed and rides along on top of it. That's not a law I sweated over at school. That's arithmetic I've trusted since I could count on my fingers.
Speeds add. Hold that one especially close tonight, because it's the sweetest thing you own and it's the first to die. Now, the waves. You brought them in the door yourself, so let's put them to work. Every wave, you said, is a wave in something. True, but a wave, unlike your ball, has a certain manner about it. A courtesy your ball doesn't bother with.
A manner, a courtesy. What are you on about? Waves have manners now.
Watch, and you'll see it. A sound is charging across the room toward you at its own steady pace. Its pace through the air, which is the only home it's got. Now you get up and run at it, straight into the sound. What speed does it come at you now?
Faster, obviously faster. I'm closing the gap from my side as well, so it piles into me quicker. My running speed adds onto its own. Same as the ball, same as the train.
And now turn tail and flee. Run away down the room with the sound chasing your back.
Then it dawdles in. It has to catch me up first, so it reaches me slower. I've stolen a bit of its speed by running off with it. Chase a wave, it hurries at you. Flee a wave, it drags. Which is, hang on, that's the same tune as everything else, isn't it? The wave's own speed and my speed, adding and subtracting, depending which way I'm pointed.
The very same tune. And here's the sentence I want nailed to the wall for the rest of the night, because everything is about to be measured against it. Every wave anyone had ever met, sound in the air, ripples on the pond, a shudder down a rope, every last one of them plays that game. Chase it, it slows against you. Flee it, it speeds after you. Because its speed is a speed through its stuff, its medium, and the moment you go moving through that stuff too, the plain arithmetic kicks in and the number shifts. No exceptions. Not one in the whole long history of anyone bothering to look.
No exceptions. And I can hear the little drum under the way you said anyone had ever met. You're about to walk in with one I haven't met.
I am. But not yet. Because I want this trap sprung by a friend, and the friend is a course you and I already finished together. Cast your mind back. All those weeks with the fields, the charges, the lines of force, the wire that grew a ghost when you got up and walked beside it. How did the whole thing end? What did I leave in your hands on the very last night?
You left me holding the thing you'd hidden for the entire course. That electricity and magnetism were never two things at all. One field wearing two coats, and the only thing telling them apart was whether I sat still or got up and moved.
One field, two coats. Go on, you're circling the door of it.
And then, right at the door, you did something worse. You told me the course had secretly been about something it had never once named out loud, the whole way through. You said the word, lightly, like a man setting down a teacup, and then you sent me up the stairs to stew on it for a season.
I did set down a teacup, didn't I? And what was in it?
Relativity. You said the fields had been relativity the whole way through, that it had been baked through every night of the course from the first, and that Maxwell had written the thing down a full lifetime before a living soul had the word for what he'd written. And you said it would take another course, another night, to make sense of the madness. Well, I've come back down the stairs. Here I am, make sense of it.
Then let me start exactly where the field course pointed and refused to walk. Maxwell's laws, the four you pasted into your album one at a time, like a boy pressing flowers. You know they allow light.
We built it together. The self-making wave. I'll not forget the shape of that night as long as I live, the two fields taking it in turns to haul each other forward through the black, and light just falling out of the arithmetic as though it had been sitting there waiting all along.
The electric field and the magnetic field leapfrogging off through the empty dark, each one forever giving birth to the other, hand over hand, needing no wire, no charge, nothing at all to hold it up. Light pouring out of the lamp over your head, and we made it in a plain room, out of a magnet and a coil of wire, without once reaching outside the ordinary world to do it. I remember thinking, that night, that we'd walked to the very end of the road. I hadn't the faintest notion we'd only found the trap door in the floor of it.
I've got that. It's the thing I'm proudest of out of the whole course, that we built the light ourselves, you and I, out of a changing magnet and a hoop of copper wire, and never once had to leave the room to do it.
Then here's the part we strolled straight past. The way you and I always stroll past the deepest thing on the very night we first meted. Maxwell's laws don't merely allow the wave, they fix how fast it goes. The speed isn't a free number you get to dial in or read off a ruler. It falls out of the laws themselves, forced, with no say in the matter. And what fixes it is nothing whatever about the lamp or the wire or the hand that struck the match. It's only how hard empty space itself pushes back. And empty space pushes back the very same in every corner of the world, for every soul in it, and plays no favourites at all.
How hard empty space pushes back. You'll have to slow right down on that one, because empty space pushing is a fistful of words that don't obviously belong in the same sentence. Empty is the one thing that oughtn't push at all. Empty is the absence of the pushers.
And yet, think about what the self-making wave actually needs to keep itself alive. A stirring in the one field has to rouse the other. The electric change calls up a magnetic one. The magnetic change calls back an electric one, on and on, hand over hand. And empty space has a say in how eagerly it'll do that. There's a stiffness to it, a springiness. How readily a stir of the one field wakes the other out of nothing at all. Not a stiffness your hand could ever feel, a stiffness only the fields feel. But it's every bit as real as the tautness of a drum skin, and it sets the note just the same.
So there's a give and a resistance to plain emptiness. Only the fields are the ones who feel it, not me.
Just so. And the wave's speed is nothing but the gearing of that. How quick the empty dark is to answer its own stirrings. The give of nothing sets the pace.
So the pace is baked into the emptiness, the same slab of emptiness that's everywhere.
The same everywhere, and the same always. And now you're standing right on top of the thing, so look down at your own feet. That speed comes out of the laws as a single number. One definite pace for light. Fixed. The same whether the lamp is racing along or sitting stone still. Because the lamp was never in the sum. Only empty space was. And empty space hasn't got a speed of its own to lend to anybody. It's the one pace the whole universe seems to know by heart, and it never once stops to ask you which way you happen to be facing when it tells you.
One number for light. All right, that's tidy. That's rather beautiful laid out like that. So where's the knife in it? You don't build up to rather beautiful unless there's a knife behind your back.
Here's the knife. Go back to the rule you nailed to the wall not 10 minutes ago. Every speed is a speed compared to something. Finish the sentence, you said. Or you've said nothing at all. Fast compared to what? So I turn now to Maxwell's one speed for light, this single definite pace that dropped out of his laws, and I ask it your own question, right to its face. This speed of light is a speed compared to what?
Compared to, well, it's compared to whatever it's compared to, I can't. There's nothing there to finish it with. The number came straight out of the stiffness of empty space. You just showed me that with your own two hands. And there's no compared to the ground bolted onto it. No compared to the lamp. No compared to anything at all. It's a bare speed. A speed with the whole second half of the sentence torn clean off. And no matter how I turn it over in my hands, there's simply no place left on it to write the missing half back in.
A bare speed. The one single thing you swore up and down, not 10 minutes back, could never exist. A speed that just is, all on its own, with no relative to anywhere on it. And Maxwell wrote one down. It's been sitting there in the very middle of his laws the whole time, in a good light, where anyone might have read it. And the whole time it's been quietly, patiently missing the one thing every other speed in all of creation is required to carry. Every other speed drags its relative to along behind it, like a shadow it can't shake off. This one casts no shadow at all.
So one of two things has gone wrong. Either my precious rule has a hole in it, which I flatly refuse, I've staked my grandmother on that rule, or Maxwell's laws are missing their second half, and somebody just needs to go and hunt down the compared to what and write it back in where it belongs.
And which of those would you bet the house on? Say it plainly. 200 years of every speed being relative to something. Sound and balls and trains and waves, the whole choir singing the one note, against a young handful of laws about fields that maybe, just maybe, simply haven't been finished yet.
Oh, I bet on the 200 years, every day of the week and twice on the day of rest. The laws are the newcomer here. Of course, they're the ones with a piece missing. You don't throw out the oldest, surest thing you own because some clever young upstart of a theory turns up with a gap in it. You fill the gap. So come on, let's fill it. Where's light's missing compared to what?
That is exactly the bet the whole world made. And I need you to feel that it was the clever bet, not the foolish one, before we stand here and watch it lose.
I don't want your pity for it. I want to make the bet myself, and make it well.
Then make it with me, carefully, the way careful people made it. Light is a wave. You've said it 3 separate times tonight, and meant it every time. And a wave, your rule, remember, not mine, is always a wave in some stuff. So
light needs its stuff, its own medium. There has to be some material, some sea of a thing that light does its waving in, the way sound waves in air. And the missing compared to what is that. Light's one speed is its speed through its own private sea, measured against the sea. There, sentence finished, second half restored, and I feel enormously better already.
And you ought to, because that's the sober move, not a wild one. Every wave known to a living soul, back then, needed its medium. Pump the air out of a jar and the bell ringing inside it goes silent. Take the air away and the sound has nothing left to wave, and it simply stops mid-note.
No staff, no wave. That's a hard little rule, and it's held every single time I've ever met it.
Every time anyone had ever met it. Ripples need the pond. A shudder needs its rope. To ask light, alone out of all the waves in the world, to need no stuff whatsoever, that would have been the mad idea. The reckless one, the one that got you laughed out of the room. Proposing the sea was the calm, careful, sensible thing that a calm, careful person does. To do otherwise, to let light slip the one leash every other wave in the world has always worn, you'd have wanted a very good reason indeed. And nobody, that night, had one to give.
So there's a sea, and it has to be everywhere, doesn't it? Light crosses this room. Light crosses all the way from the sun. Light crosses from stars so far off it makes my teeth ache to think about the distance.
So the sea can have no edges anywhere. Nowhere for it to stop and leave off.
Nowhere. It has to fill every scrap of that. It's in this room right now. It's stretched between here and the sun. It's out past the last star anyone's ever seen. An ocean with no shore anywhere. And I'm sitting in it this very minute.
Sitting in it. Breathing in it. Waving your hand through it. An invisible, perfectly still sea that fills every last corner of space there is. And light is the ripple that goes running across it. That's the picture, and it hung in every serious head alive for a long generation. It even had a name, plain and old. They called it the ether. But don't let the old word fool you into thinking it was a fanciful idea. Strip the name back off it, and all it ever was is this: the water that light's wave needs, because every wave needs its water. Nothing grander than that. And once you'd granted it the sea, everything else fell into its place so sweetly that a careful person would have felt half a fool for doubting it.
All right, but, and I can feel you sitting there waiting for me to say it, I have never once in my life bumped into the thing. This sea is supposedly everywhere, filling all of space, and I walk about the world all day feeling precisely nothing. No drag on my sleeve, no slosh. I wave my hand through the air and I feel the air push back, faint, but there. I wave my hand through this sea of yours and I feel not a whisper.
And that was the delicious trouble with it, right from the very start. This sea had to be the strangest stuff anyone had ever dared to propose. It has to fill absolutely everything, and yet let the planets sail straight through it, century upon century, without slowing them by so much as a hair.
Firmer than steel, to carry light along at such a pace, and thinner than nothing, so as not to snag a single planet. The same stuff, asked to be both at once.
Both at once, and that's before you ask the rest of it. It has to be there, or light makes no sense at all. And yet you cannot see it, cannot feel it, cannot weigh it, cannot bottle a drop of it, cannot get so much as a fingernail underneath it. You've a suspect who walks through walls and never once casts a shadow. And still the careful conclusion, the reasonable one, was, it must be there. Because light is a wave, and a wave needs its water, and there is simply no getting round it.
A thing you cannot detect by any means at all, that must nonetheless be perfectly real. I'll say it straight, that has the exact smell of a ghost story. So how in the world do you ever pin down a sea that leaves no mark on anything it touches?
You get clever. If the sea won't come to you, you go hunting for its wind. And this is the loveliest turn in the whole story, so let me build it up slowly, brick on brick. You cannot feel the sea by standing in it, granted, but you are not standing in it.
I'm not? I feel fairly stood still, sitting here in this chair.
Nobody is, chair and all. The earth is tearing along all the time, never once pausing to catch its breath, swinging round the sun in its great, slow, yearly circle, and carrying you and your chair along with it. So the earth is not sitting in the sea, cosy and still. The earth is barreling through it.
And a thing that goes barreling through a sea has got to feel a wind. That's where you're heading.
A wind. Of course it does. Stick your hand out of the window of a moving carriage on a dead calm day, and the still air becomes a wind in your palm. Not because the air's gone and started moving, but because you have. The wind is just your own motion, handed straight back to you. So if the earth's racing through this still sea, then here on deck we ought to feel the sea streaming past us. A wind of the ether itself blowing through the room, through the walls, through you and me as the earth ploughs on forward. Silent, unfelt, but there, a great tide of the stuff rushing past your face every waking second of your life, and you none the wiser for it.
And I can't feel that on my skin any more than I could feel the sea itself. But maybe light can feel it. Light's the one thing that lives in the sea, so light's the one thing that can rat the wind out.
That is precisely where I'm heading. And now the swimmer comes back. The one from the top of the night, chasing his sound down the room. Only now I've handed him a river instead of a still room. Picture a wide river with a good, strong current running down it, and a swimmer who always swims at the one steady pace through the water. That's his one speed, his speed through his medium, the very same as light's one speed through the sea.
One swimmer, one steady stroke. And what do I do with him?
Race him two ways and time the both of them against each other. First, straight up the river against the current, and then back down again with it. Second, straight across to the far bank and straight back. Same distance out and home on each of them. The only thing that changes is which way he sets his shoulder against the flow.
Up and back against the flow versus over and back across it. Same swimmer, same steady pace through the water, same distance each way. And I'll say the obvious thing, surely they come out even. Same effort, same distance, same man. It's a wash.
You'd think. Everybody thinks. And everybody's wrong. And this little wrongness is the jewel the whole trap is cut from. Going up against the current, he crawls, the river's shoving him back the entire way. Coming home down with it, he flies.
So it evens out. Slow going up, quick coming back. Surely the one pays off the other.
That's the trap in your gut, and it's a lie. He spends a long, long while crawling, and only a short, glorious while flying. So the crawling wins. The fighting wins. The trip up and back, against and then with, costs him more time overall than your gut would ever guess. And the trip across, angling his nose upstream just enough to hold his line against the drift, costs him less.
So the round trip that fights the current head-on is the slow one, always the slow one. And the gap between the two swims, that's the current's own signature. If I didn't even know the river was flowing, that gap in the timing would rat it out. It'd hand me the current I couldn't see.
It hands you the current you couldn't see. And that is the trap, whole and entire, and it is a thing of beauty. So swap them out. Swap the swimmer for a beam of light. Swap the river's current for the ether wind.
And how on earth do you race a beam of light against itself?
You split the one beam in two and send the halves off on the two trips. One along the wind, up against it and back with it. One across the wind, over and back. Then bring them home and lay them side by side. If there's a sea, if there's a wind blowing through the room at all, the two come back at ever so slightly different times. The along half dragging, worn out from fighting the current, the across half home a touch sooner. Measure that sliver of a difference between them, and the invisible sea has signed its name to a full confession. You'd have caught the uncatchable at last, pinned the ghost to the wall by nothing but its own faint shadow.
Oh, that's gorgeous. That is properly, thoroughly gorgeous. You can't touch the sea, you can't weigh it, you can't get a fingernail under it, but you can set two beams of light racing each other and let the wind that's supposedly howling silently through everything show up as nothing more than a hair's breadth lag between the pair of them. You've turned utterly undetectable into a horse race. So somebody built this. Please tell me somebody actually went and built the thing.
Somebody built it, and built it beautifully, to a fineness that fair beggars belief. Because remember what they were chasing, the very faintest sliver of a difference, right at the ragged edge of what could be measured at all. No rough back-of-an-envelope sketch of a thing. The finest, most delicate trap yet devised by anyone for anything, tuned to catch a whisper of a whisper. They pointed their light along the Earth's motion and across it. They set the two beams racing, and then, holding their breath, they read off the difference between them.
And the difference was…
There wasn't one. The two beams came home together, dead together. The along beam and the across beam. The one that should have been worn ragged fighting the wind, and the one that should have sailed clean across it, arrived at precisely the same instant. As though there were no wind blowing at all, as though the swimmer's river were standing perfectly still, not slowed, not nudged a hair to one side, nothing.
No, that's just the trap not being fine enough yet, surely. The wind was there, the difference was there, it was only smaller than they could quite catch. They needed a sharper instrument, that's all. You said yourself it was a whisper of a whisper. Well, maybe they needed ears for a whisper quieter still.
That was the first thought. It was everyone's first thought, and it was a fair one. So they sharpened it, and sharpened it again. Fine enough to catch a difference far, far smaller than the one the wind ought to have made. Fine enough that if the sea were there at all, with the earth truly moving through it at anything like the pace we know it moves, the beams could not possibly have hidden it from a trap that keen.
And when they'd made it that fine.
And still, nothing. So it isn't that they missed it, it's that there was nothing there to be missed. Not a smaller difference than they'd hoped for. Not a faint, shy, shaved-down difference, cowering just under the noise. Nothing at all. The beams came home together, dead level, every single time they were asked. And the finer they made the trap, the louder that silence rang back at them.
But the Earth doesn't hold still through all this. It's swinging round the sun. So even supposing we happened, by some fluke, to be drifting along with the sea for a moment, all cosy, half a year later we'd be charging back the opposite way through the very same sea. The wind would have to show its face then, if it wouldn't show it now.
You've just made their next move for them. And it's the move that quietly shut the last door in the house. They waited. They came back to it, season after season, with the earth flying off in a different direction each time, so that whichever way the wind might blow, at some point across the year, they'd be sailing dead into the teeth of it.
So you can't even blame a lucky calm spell. Catch the sea napping 1 month, and half a year on you'd have it blowing straight in your face.
Straight in your face. And they came back to catch it every way besides, turning the light along, across, this way, that, wheeling the whole apparatus round the room. And the beams came home together in the spring, and together in the autumn, and together whichever way they aimed the thing, and together whichever way the earth itself happened to be racing.
Every direction, every season, and always, always the same.
Always the same. Light came home at the one speed, no matter which way the earth flew, and no matter which way you pointed the beam. A true nothing. Not a small wind, not a shy wind, not a wind hiding just beneath the noise, waiting for a finer net. No wind. The sea left no wake behind it, no drag on the beam, no fingerprint on the glass, not the faintest smudge of one anywhere, ever. It was as if there were no sea at all, as if there never had been, as if the whole ocean we'd been so certain of had never, anywhere, held a single drop.
Hold on, let me sit in that for a moment, because I think it's worse than it sounds on the first pass. They didn't fail to find the wind. That's not what happened here. They succeeded. They proved the thing isn't there. And that's a wholly different animal. A blur, a maybe, a not quite, a we'll need a better instrument. That you can live alongside, you go home and sleep on it. But this is a clean, ringing 0. The trap worked perfectly. It did exactly the job it was built for. And it caught nothing at all because there was nothing there to be caught. And once you've seen a trap that fine come up that empty, you can't ever go back to being sure the sea was there in the first place.
That is the whole horror of it, and you've laid your finger square in the middle of the wound. A messy result you can always talk your way out of. Bad luck, bad glass, a warm draft in the room. Come back Tuesday and try again. But a clean 0 out of a perfect trap is not a thing any amount of talking gets you out of. There is nowhere on this earth to hide a nothing that clean. It's the universe answering your question flat, in a single syllable, and the syllable is no. Flat and final, and without the smallest room to argue it. There is no wind, and if there is no wind,
then there's no sea. That's where it goes, isn't it? The sea was the whole reason we ever expected a wind, the earth ploughing on through the still ocean of the ether. No wind means nothing's being ploughed through, which means the sea I was so pleased with myself for inventing, the tidy compared to what, I used to finish light sentence and feel enormously better. That sea isn't there. I finished the sentence with a word that turns out to be empty.
and there's the fork in the road. 2 roads out of here, and both of them are terrible. Let me set them down side by side, slowly, because the whole of the crisis lives right there, in the choosing between them.
Give me the first road then, gently if you can.
Road 1. The sea is real after all, every drop of it. And there's no wind for one reason only, which is that the earth just happens to be sitting perfectly still in it. At rest. Motionless in the sea. While the entire sky wheels around overhead.
But the earth is not at rest. That's madness on the face of it. It's tearing round the sun. We can watch it do that. The whole sky turns with the seasons. The thing is about as unarguable as anything gets. For the earth to be sitting dead still in this sea, the entire rest of the heavens would have to be arranged in a great ring around us, with us parked motionless at the very centre, perfectly becalmed, while all of creation does the moving. We threw that idea out centuries back. That's the oldest wrong turn in the whole book, and we don't get to go crawling back to it just because we're cornered.
It is the oldest wrong turn, and no careful person could bring themselves to swallow it. To save the sea by that road, you'd have to shove the earth back into the still centre of all creation, and pay for one awkward little idea with a far, far worse one. So that road is shut, barred and bricked over, and no one in their right mind is walking back down it. Which leaves the other road, and the other road doesn't shout. It's quiet, and it's simple, and it takes the ground out from under you without once raising its voice.
Then say it. I can see you've been carrying it in your coat all night, waiting for the room to be ready. Say the other road.
There is no sea. There never was. Light doesn't wave in anything at all. It just travels, needing no water, alone of every wave there is.
And it's one speed.
It's one speed, the one that fell out of Maxwell's laws, with no, compared to whatever bolted onto it, doesn't need one, because it truly is a bare speed. It was a bare speed the whole time, and we simply couldn't bear to look straight at it. Light has the one pace, the same for everyone. Measured against nothing at all, not the ground, not the sun, not some deeper sea we simply hadn't stumbled on yet. Against nothing. The word we spent all night straining to fill was only ever meant to stay empty.
The same for everyone. Say what that actually costs me. Slowly, please, and in small words, because I've a strong feeling I'm not going to like a single one of them.
It costs you the rule. Your rule. The one you nailed to the wall and staked your grandmother's good name on. Come back to the swimmer one last time, but make him light. You're standing still, and a beam of light goes sailing past you at its one pace.
And I chase it, the same as I chase the sound down the room.
Chase it as hard as your legs will carry you. By every law you've trusted since you could count on your fingers, it should come at you slower now. You've stolen a piece of its speed by giving chase. It should dawdle, the very way the sound dawdled in when you turned and ran off down the room with it.
Right, the arithmetic. Its speed, take away my speed, so it dawdles. Except I can hear from your face that it doesn't dawdle.
It does not dawdle, not by a hair. The sea is gone now, and when the sea goes, the arithmetic goes with it. Chase the light as hard as ever you like, throw everything you've got into the chase, and it races away from you at exactly the pace it had when you were standing stock still. Now turn and flee it, and it does not come screaming after you any faster. Same pace. You cannot gain a single step on light, and you cannot lose one. However you move, whatever you throw at it, light goes past you at the one speed. Always the one speed. It will not be chased, and it will not be fled. You're welcome to spend the rest of your life trying. It will make not the slightest difference in the world.
That can't… No, that's the thing that can't be true. That's the one right there. Two people, one chasing the beam flat out, one fleeing it flat out, and the beam goes past both of them at the very same speed. They're running in opposite directions. They can't both clock the same number for the same beam. The arithmetic simply won't have it. The speeds have to add and take away. They always have. That's what speeds do.
They always have. For 200 years they always have, and the light does not care. That is what the clean zero was trying to tell us the whole time. The two beams came home together because light will not add and take away your motion the way every other wave in the world politely does.
It just won't play with me at all.
It won't play the game however you set it up. Point yourself at it however you please. Move toward it, move away, run flat sideways, stand dead still, and it hands you back the one same speed and takes not the blindest bit of notice of anything you're doing.
And that breaks the rule. Not bends it, not dents it, breaks it clean through. Every speed is relative to something. The thing my grandmother knew, the thing Galileo watched in the cabin of his ship, the thing Newton laid his whole world down on top of. It's just wrong. For light, at the least. There's one speed in all of creation that isn't relative to anything at all, and it's the speed of the plain stuff pouring out of every lamp and every star in the sky.
There it is, said in your own words, which is the only way it ever stays said. The oldest, surest, most homely rule you owned. The one so obvious that nobody in 200 years had ever bothered to write it down, has a hole punched clean through the middle of it. And the hole is exactly, precisely, the shape of a beam of light. 200 years said, finish the sentence, name your compared to what? And light stands there in the middle of the room, refusing, holding its one speed out to everyone alike, to the runner and the fleer, and the one stood still. And it will not finish the sentence. Because for light, there simply is no second half. It's the bare speed. The impossible thing you swore on your life couldn't be. And there it stands anyway, patient and silent and perfectly sure of itself.
And you can't rescue it. That's the part making my head genuinely ache. All night I've been half waiting for you to do the thing you always do. Pull the floor back up at the very last second, show me the trap door, tell me it only looked broken, that I'd been holding it wrong the whole while. And you're just not reaching for the floor. Your hands are in your pockets.
My hands are in my pockets, because tonight there is no floor to reach for. I could dress it up and tie it in a bow for you and send you to bed happy. I won't do that to you. This is the place the smartest people alive actually stood, and stood for years, with a clean zero in the one hand and an unbreakable rule in the other, and no way on this earth to hold the two of them at once. The sea was drained away, the rule was in pieces, and nothing anyone knew, nothing in all of physics, could make the two of them sit quietly in the same room together. So they simply stood there, the pair of them, glaring at each other across the floor for the better part of a generation.
So what did they do? People don't just stand about in a broken room forever, staring at the walls. What did the finest minds alive actually do with a thing that couldn't possibly be true and flatly refused to go away?
They fought to save the sea. And you must not laugh at them for it, not for 1 second, not from up here, where we already know how it ends, because it was the same thing to do, and they were anything but fools.
What does fighting for a sea even look like when the sea won't so much as show its face?
It looks like the most ingenious shapes you ever saw a mind twist itself into, all to keep the old picture breathing. Perhaps the sea gets dragged along with the earth, they said, like a blanket snagged on the back of a moving cart. So there's no wind close to the ground where we do our measuring. Perhaps, and this one's wilder, perhaps the very instruments squeeze up a touch shorter as they push through the sea, by just precisely the right amount to hide the wind from the very people holding them.
The rulers shrink by exactly the amount you'd need to hide the very thing you're out hunting for. That's not a theory, that's the sea bribing the witnesses. That's the whole universe going to elaborate, fiddly lengths to tidy away its own footprints before the constable arrives.
And that's the tell, isn't it? When the patches you need to keep an idea alive start looking like a cover-up, all elaborate and precise, and always just exactly enough, then the idea underneath is very often the thing that was wrong all along. Every rescue kept the beloved old rule and paid for it with something stranger than the crisis it was sent in to fix. Seas that drag but somehow never slow a planet. Rulers that shrink to order on cue. For years, the cleverest people in the world reached for anything at all, rather than pick up the one plain fact and look it dead in the eye.
And the one plain fact is the very thing you've refused all night to rescue me from. Light has one speed, the same for everyone alive, relative to nothing. Full stop, end of sentence, no second half coming.
Full stop. And it took someone willing to walk right up to that fact, not flinch from it, not patch it, not slip a single witness a coin, and simply say, "All right, fine. Light has the one speed, the same for everyone. I believe it, I'll keep it. Now, what must I hand over in exchange? Because a fact like that one is never free. If light won't bend to save the old rules, then it must be the old rules that bend to make room for the light. Something has to give. Something always has to give. And the only question left worth asking is what you can bear to part with."
And what did it cost him in the end? You dangled this at the door of the last course too. You said the one speed comes with a bill, and the bill gets sent to something nobody had ever dreamed was even up for sale. So what was for sale? What did he have to spend?
The two things you'd never once in your life thought to doubt. The two things sitting so far underneath the rule that they were the very things holding the rule up off the ground. Not the sea. The sea was easy to give up in the end. Not the rulers as a clever dodge. Something underneath all of that. Something underneath speed itself. The very floor that every speed you have ever named has been quietly standing on the whole time. But I'm not going to tell you what tonight, and you can feel me not telling you, And that's just as it should be. Tonight was only ever about one thing, standing you square in the middle of the wreckage and making you believe, in your bones, that the wreckage is real.
Another night, another pair of voices, braver than this pair. You said that at the door as well. I thought you were only being poetic, dressing up the goodbye. Now it lands more like a warning you left for me to find later.
A little of both, I think. The someone who finally took the one speed at its plain word and handed the bill for it to the very last things in the world anyone expected to be asked to pay. You already know his name. Everybody does. It's the name people reach for whenever they want an idea to sound impossible. A byword for the unthinkable, hung on the door of anything too strange to say out loud. Einstein.
Of course it is. It's always him, isn't it? Standing right there at the far end of the corridor, exactly where the floor gives way beneath your feet. So what did he do that all those clever people fighting to save the sea couldn't?
He refused, point blank, to be clever about it. Everyone else in the world was busy being clever, dragging their seas, shrinking their rulers, propping the old picture up with one ingenious stick after another. He was the one man willing to be simple instead, and to pay for the simplicity with the ground under his own feet.
Simple how? What did the simple thing even sound like when he finally said it?
It sounded like 2 rules. That was all he reached for, 2 plain rules that take this whole madness, the one speed, the same for everyone, relative to nothing on earth, and turn it, patiently, from a flat impossibility into the plain way the world actually works.
2 rules, and I'll wager you a month of Sundays that one of the 2 is the very thing we've spent all night breaking our heads against, that the speed of light is the same for everyone, full stop, and the whole trick is to stop fighting the thing and start building on top of it instead. To treat the crack in the floor as the foundation.
I'll take that wager, and I'll lose it to you gladly. But not tonight. Tonight I want you walking up those stairs still thoroughly uncomfortable, with the sea drained clean away and the oldest rule you own lying in pieces on the floor behind you, and light standing there in the middle of the empty room, holding its one speed out to everyone who passes, and refusing, ever so quietly, to explain itself to a soul.
Then I'll carry the discomfort up the stairs with me, because I don't think you'd let me set it down anywhere short of the top. I came down here tonight sure of one thing, if I was sure of nothing else in all the world, that a speed is always a speed compared to something, that you finish the sentence or you've said nothing at all. And I'm going back up having watched the finest trap ever built go out hunting for the sea that would finish Light's sentence for it, and come home with its 2 hands empty.
Empty hands. Hold on to that picture. It's the truest thing the 2 of us made all night. Everything else we said was a story told to explain the emptiness away. That was the fact.
I'll hold it the whole way up the stairs. No sea, no wind, no compared to what, only light, sailing past at the one pace, the same whether I chase it flat out or flee it flat out, or stand there stock still and let it go by, and not caring in the very least what that does to 200 years of my arithmetic. I don't yet know what it costs a person to believe a thing like that. You've made quite sure I don't. But I can't unsee the empty hands. So, next time. The 2 rules that make sense of the madness. I'll be down early, and I'll bring my grandmother's rule down with me, so we can see together what's left of it in the morning. I've a feeling it won't come up whole. Good night.